Hi, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about how I went about telling people that I had cancer. Um, One of the hardest things after you learn that you have a cancer diagnosis is telling your friends and family the news. And everyone's gonna have a different approach to this. There's no right or wrong way to tell people about your cancer diagnosis. It's just what you feel comfortable doing. My situation was a little unique in that I was actually living abroad while I found out that I had cancer. Or I should say I was supposed to be living abroad while I was when I found out. I was in Ireland, and I was a graduate assistant for a study abroad program, and I was supposed to be in Ireland for 7 weeks. So not not months and months or like a year, but a significant enough amount of time I was supposed to be there. And I was in the country for 2 days when I had a seizure, and the seizure was caused by a brain tumor. And then we found out through colonoscopy in the Irish hospital that I had, colorectal cancer. And just the seizure alone was dramatic enough, but nonetheless, finding out that you have cancer on top of it, just obviously just devastating, especially when you're in a foreign country. But so that added a layer to it because I was so far removed from my friends and family. I didn't know anyone except for my boss who was there in the country with me. So there was an added layer of stress for sure. But for our intents and purposes, I'm not going to get too much into that because I want this to be more of a general topic instead of the nitty-gritty details of my experience. So what I decided to do was at first the people who knew that something was wrong with me, even before I knew I had cancer, was my husband, and I think my brother and sister, and my mom and my grandparents, and maybe a couple of friends. But I was really trying not to tell too many people because I didn't have answers at that point, and I didn't know what to tell people because I didn't know myself. So once I found out that I had actually I didn't know the stage of the cancer yet, but it was stage 4 colorectal. So after I found out that I had rectal cancer, I went ahead and told, my husband and my mom and probably my brother and sister as well. And that was quite an experience because I was on the phone sometimes up to 8 hours a day just relaying information. While I was in the hospital for a week in Ireland, I was doing a litany of tests like PET scans. Well, actually I didn't have a PET scan, but I had a CT scan, MRIs, colonoscopy, etc., etc. I was just going through all these things. And every time I got a new test result, of course everyone wants to know, well, what were the results? And like I said, at one point I was on the phone for 8 hours just telling everybody what my results were. And then at one point, like, grandma gets mad because, not mad, but like grandma's like, well, you told your mom this, but why didn't you tell me this detail? And it's like, I can't remember who I told and who I didn't tell. So at that point I had decided to make 2 points of contact, and that was my mom and that was my husband. So you kind of utilize them to disperse this information out to other family members. That way I wouldn't have to tell them over and over and over again and remember who I told what. And that also, when you do this, when you keep telling your story or these things over and over and over again, you're basically just re-traumatizing yourself and you're mentally exhausting yourself. So don't feel bad about putting that burden onto another person because you're really saving yourself in that way. Use those people who are going to, who are able and willing to relay your information in your behalf. Another thing I did was in the early stages is I started a newsletter. And I like tiny letter, but you can use anything you want. You know, if you want to make an email list, if you wanted to, you know, have a private YouTube channel, if you wanted to create, use something like MailChimp, whatever it is, some massively large group text message, you know, whatever works for you. But I liked the tiny letter because people could sign up for it, or I could sign them up for it, and I could just get all that information out. And I think there was about 38 people on the list when I had the most people subscribe to it. And so it's, you know, enough people to get this information out, and but not enough to be where it's like just tons of people on it. It's just like kind of like small and intimate, and it's just like family members, friends, some of my husband's friends, you know, just people who want to keep tabs on me. And I maintained that list for about a year, and that was really helpful because I can tell people how I was doing, and it can kind of seem a little impersonal, but I would treat it like I was writing a letter to a friend instead of just this, like, you know, email blast or something like that. Another big thing is social media. Some people choose to keep everything, all their health situations off of social media, which is more than understanding because you have to maintain some semblance of privacy while you're going through all of this. I did not plan to tell anybody at all about my cancer diagnosis, and I kept it under wraps. I found out June 2018, and I didn't really what I call go public with it, but just kind of, when I say go public, I mean I put it in my social media outlets. I didn't go public with it until I think it was like mid to late September of 2018. And the reason I chose to do that is because my brother had a fundraiser for me. He wanted to host a fundraiser, so of course I would have to tell people so they could, you know, go to the fundraiser. And it's a pretty big fundraiser with food vendors and stuff like that, and like auctions. Like people donated art and, you know, gift certificates from local businesses, things like that. So once my brother offered that, and I was kind of reluctant to accept the help, to be honest, but once he told me that, then that's when I put it out on social media. And I put it out on Twitter, and I put something like, check out this fundraiser that my brother's throwing for a good cause. But I never said it was my fundraiser, but people, you know, just made the connections. And I tweeted that I was going through some hard times, but I was pretty ambiguous about it. But people are smart and they figured it out. And then also, other thing I put it on Facebook because we were doing some of the fundraising through Facebook, and then I also put on Instagram, and Instagram allows you to disable the comments. I think Facebook does too, but I can't figure out how to do it. So I disabled the comments on Instagram because I didn't want people saying, oh, sorry, you know, I don't want people feeling sorry for me. I don't want people telling me, you know, I don't know, being sad for me. I just wanted to get this information out and to let people know that this was happening, and, you know, and it was honestly, I'm just really glad I put it on social media. Like I said, I was really apprehensive about it at first, but I was really glad I did, because when I did, I felt like I had the secret that I was harboring, and I felt like I was like releasing this, you know, this secret, that I wasn't holding on to the secret anymore. And I was inundated with just this outpouring of people just coming and saying like, what can I do for you? You know, even was just like thinking about you. That was, you know, it was great. I was kind of wondering if there was going to be any kind of like negativity. And for the most part, I would say 90% of interactions from people were just really, it was really great. People were really surprisingly respectful of my privacy. And I think it's also in the way I frame things. Now, telling complete strangers, however, is something really different and something I still struggle with to this day. Because you never know what to say, when to bring it up. Especially when I was going through treatment and I had my bald head, and you know, at that point when my hair fell out and I was just, whatever, I'm just gonna rock a bald head. You know, it's pretty obvious, I think, usually, but sometimes you just don't know, like, I don't know, when people are gonna, like, rude to you, or sometimes people ask, like, stupid questions or make stupid comments or insulting comments, and sometimes I would just blurt out, I have cancer. And I just, like, never knew, like, just kind of how to figure out situations like that. And you know what? That's okay, because when you find out that you have cancer, it's just like it's like you're thrown into the situation, and you're just kind of like, it's like you're thrown into a pool and you're just like scrambling to you know, breach the surface. And that's just kind of what it feels like. So yeah, that's just kind of the things I did. And I actually wrote a piece, a blog post from a hospital about this very topic. So I'll include that link. That way you can check it out. And I highly recommend reading that piece, because it's very far more eloquent when I write than when I talk. And probably easier to understand just with my speech impediment after brain surgery. But I highly recommend that you share that as well, and share this video if you need help, you know, if you know someone who's been recently diagnosed and they could benefit from this. All right, thanks a lot for watching.